When I checked my sweater after it had rested overnight, I discovered that it had relaxed enough that I am now too short in my armhole depth. You can see the edge of my brown up here and the top of my shoulder seam. By the time I stitch, I'm going to lose another approximately 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. So I am about 2 inches too short from where I am to where I need to be in order for my sweater to fit correctly through the armhole. This is the schematic that I use for my commercial sweaters that I make. A small armhole depth is usually 8 inches, a medium is usually 8.5, and a large is usually 9. Now, in order for you to determine for yourself what you need, just take something like a knitting needle, put it under your arm, and use a straight ruler and measure from your underarm up to the edge of your shoulder and see what your personal measurement is. Then on everything that you're making, you can make a determination. Do I need to have it slightly longer, or do I need to knit just the way that it is? Slightly longer would be if you were going to be putting another sweater under the sweater that you're wearing outside. Might have a bulky sleeve on a blouse that you're wearing or a top that you're wearing. Or you might have shell where you have no bulk at all that's added in the sleeve of the area of the garment underneath what you are putting this sweater over. So do find your own personal armhole depth and knit accordingly. Always check your sweater to be sure that after it has rested that it hasn't done this where it actually has reduced fairly significantly. I also then need to check from here to the bottom of my hem to make sure that this garment is going to be the length that I want. So those are things that are very, very often overlooked and can create such a difference in the way that you like the finish of your end garment to be. When you are working with your correction of this situation, I will now unpick or unravel all of these, put this back on my knitting machine, and just knit the distance that I need to have in order for it to go back to the length that I need. And because I know that it relaxes a good bit, I might add an extra 1 or 2 rows, which can be put into the shoulder seam if I need to, so I don't have to worry about correcting or overcorrecting, and that'll give me a chance to be able to get the length where I want it to be. Now, as you are working with your armhole depth, you're also working with the depth of where you are here at your neck edge. So as I'm working with my neck edge, you can see here, as you're looking, that this happens to be a round neck, but in this sweater we chose to do a V-neck. Just be sure that you mark on your pattern where you want your V-neck to start, and so that both of your right and left fronts will come at the same place. If you reduce the needle or a stitch every other row, you will get this nice gradual V. If you reduce every row, you will get a very sharp V depth like this. So work on your V-necked samples and see what you need to do, whether you are going to be decreasing 1 stitch every other row or 1 stitch every row. And once you have made that discovery for your own preference, you then can knit accordingly whenever you find a V-neck pattern that you want to duplicate. So do double check, make sure that your depth here is what you need to have it to be for your armhole as well as your neckline. This one I'll be correcting by removing those stitches that I bound off in the shoulder, adding more yarn, and knitting back up the number of rows that I need to get the length that I want, letting it rest overnight, and checking it again against my pattern to be sure that on the second time where I've added my stitches that I will have the number of rows that I need to get the inches for the armhole as well as the neckline. This is one of the things that I discovered, that many, particularly plus size sweaters will make your armhole depth way too long. I've seen some of them as long as 12 and 13 inches, which there's just no reason why you would ever want to have an armhole depth. Maybe if you're doing a coat and you're going to be wearing several things in the armhole area, but as a general rule, even a coat doesn't have an armhole depth that is 13 inches long. So really attend to any pattern that you might pick up that you want to try knitting, and be sure that the armhole depth is going to be appropriate so that you do not have to worry about having something that looks really sloppy and slovenly under your arm, because if you put all that extra armhole, underarm, under your arm 2 or 3 inches down, it looks quite odd and you will not like it. And people who are looking at you will be kind of quizzical about what is going on with that garment of that person. And you'll begin to notice as you look at different people and the way that they have knit their sweaters, you will see that their armhole depths are oftentimes way longer than they need to be. So I want to point that out because that is a very common error that is made with machine knitters. They just are following along with the directions, not paying particular attention about how that sweater is going to end up looking like on their own personal body, and they have sweater armhole depths that are way too long and don't really recognize that that's what the problem is when they try the sweater on and go, yeah, I don't know that I really like this. And so we don't want to have that experience for you. So check the way that your sweater relaxes, the armhole depth, the depth of your neckline, and you will be much happier with the end garments that you will be knitting.